What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum to keep up to date with the community debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by The Plain Truth, The One, Slick James Johnson, Paul, Lorenzo, Flat Earth or Earth Flattener, Ebon Kim, Chocolate Sane, and Arwin. Good to have you one and all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
Did I say your name right? Lorenzo, is it?
Yeah.
How are you doing? You're new to the panel.
I'm doing fine.
Excellent.
Doing
Good to
great.
have
Are you a flat earther or a glober? All right.
I didn't hear the answer. What was the answer?
Flat.
Flat.
For how long?
Since 2016.
What was the nail in the coffin, so to speak?
So I lived in the middle of, I wouldn't say the middle, but in the Western Pacific, and I flew from San Francisco to get here. And for the life of me, I just didn't understand the flight path that was being projected on the headrest in front of me on the aircraft. So a few things were popping up on Facebook and YouTube about the flat Earth. And back at that time, you couldn't tell me that the Earth was flat, you know, because I thought I was smart. And then I guess one day I felt compelled to open up one of the videos and, you know, hear what whoever it was that made the video had to say. And Azimuthal equidistant map was on the screen. So that made me look a little bit further into the flight path that was projected in front of my face. And I realized it was a straight line. So then I just started digging and digging and digging and digging. And then I was like, okay, there's no reason for me to not believe this. So, yeah, that's pretty much the start of it for me.
Cool, good stuff. Thanks for letting us know, Lorenzo. I'm going to go through the housekeeping. Hopefully it'll be an enthusiastic one. We shall see. Any signs of Earth curvature? Anybody on the panel?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing whatsoever.
I think Paul can share a picture now with us on his screen. I just sent it to him, especially for this part of the housekeeping about the Felix Baumgartner joke.
You there, Paul? Do you want to share this?
I did it especially for Paul.
Oh, here we go.
I'm working
on the
on
case.
I'm working on it.
Here we go.
Well, actually, those three pictures makes a composite of the Earth being an obloid spheroid with the equator in the middle. See the red line outline? Yeah, but see how it's the bottom part is just made out of sky? Doesn't make any
Okay.
Oh, that's the
It's
oceans.
a concave flat sphere, guys. Can't you see it?
Right, so this is your claim of curvature.
Sorry,
So it's a bit
concave
conflicting.
flat spheroid.
Got
I know what he did. I know what he did. He varied the curvature, what we've been trying to do. He's done it.
He varied it with GoPro, did he? Okay. Well, this is kind of conflicting because we've got flat, concave, and convex all in one. So that's no good. Any other signs of Earth curvature?
Nope.
No.
Nothing.
Obstruction. Lots of obstruction.
Never Earth curve, though. Arwin.
Hello.
What about axial rotation?
Oh,
No.
Any signs of axial rotation? Don't all go at once.
Nothing. There's no
So I laid
whatsoever.
down
Come
once.
on. What are you doing here? Come on.
Still haven't found that axis.
Lots of devices spinning around, suggesting all kinds of things. But
it's an axis of evil because it's 66.6 degrees.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, the claim tilt towards the sun, right?
Yeah.
Bowing the Earth.
is it the axial rotation of evil?
No, are you causing a lot of feedback there, Travis? No, just axial rotation of the Earth-based variety. I'm not so concerned about the tilt. More concerned that it's a claim that we're spinning, right?
Black axis therefore does not spin.
No, we're stationary. We're not moving a smegging inch. What about any scientific evidence of gravity?
Come on, man. Come on. What are you doing? Come on. What gravity? Come on, man. That would
Nah.
be crazy.
You can't spoil Travis when he does his thing, man. Come on.
Yeah, that'll
Do that one more
definitely-
time. And Nathan, do that one more time for Travis.
Okay. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
I blew it!
You folded. It was the pressure. The
No
pressure.
pressure, no pressure.
No, but
Okay, hold on. Me. Go.
oh, I thought you were just going to give the reply. I'll do. Okay, fine. No, I'll play along for a third time. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
Let's go.
9.8 meters per
I
second per
love
second. Gravity,
Hey, well,
Travis. Any
there is a
scientific
formula,
evidence?
multiple formulas with gravity. So
Sorry, guys.
Works.
What are you talking about?
It's just nothing.
Scientific
It works.
evidence, not formulas, not mathematics. Actual demonstrations of cause and effect.
I'm sorry, I still don't get it. Gravity, what?
Yeah, good point. What the hell are
Well,
they talking about? Nobody's,
It works so well, Nathan. Come on.
nobody
works so
sees
well.
it. Nobody experiences it. Arwin.
That's
Engineering
true,
in
but it still works really well. Gotta
what
give
works?
some recognition.
Relative density.
Of course, but it's much harder to apply relative density in the models than just a baseline gravity concept.
Did he say the models?
He did.
Yeah, models. Architect models, all kinds of modeling.
You're comparing gravity models to building models? I mean, what
Yeah.
the...
To
Just
size
refer-
up the structural integrity of buildings.
He's
They
just
use-
referring to the conversion to newtons. That's all he's doing.
Right. But it works really well and it helps the architects to oversee it much easier. Even though they are applying absolute pseudoscience, but it still works. Gotta give
So what
some
you're saying
recognition.
is they're applying something that may or may not even exist, but it works.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it is, isn't it? That's part of the aberration.
Yeah, but something that may or may not work means that it may not work. So what
No,
is the
no.
point?
It does work. That's the whole thing. It does work brilliantly.
So gravity must be a thing.
No,
Well,
that's the
it may
problem.
or may not
no,
exist,
stop.
but it works.
Stop. That's where the problem lies. That assertion, Slick's got to the point immediately. Well done, Slick. Correct. Just because you have some mathematical formula that hijacks an element of reality, which would be relative density, by removing all aspects of the relative part, putting things in vacuums and giving you a measurement of 9.8 meters per second, and then applying that mathematically to the very real aspect of relative density in our day-to-day lives, does not mean that the original assertion that there is a force of gravity is real. So Slick's got to the point real quick, like you did Arwin yesterday with R. So yeah, it doesn't make it real. Correct, Slick?
Yeah, but then I'm not claiming that it is real. I'm just saying it's much easier to program. Try and program a
Yeah, but-
model
But see,
for
Arwen, the problem
integrity
is
using relative density.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's confusing when you say they put it in the equation and it works brilliantly, and it's like it's not real.
For what
It
they're
doesn't work
using.
brilliantly.
It doesn't matter if it's not real. If it works, it works. Even if it is
Okay.
based on virtual things.
No, Arwen's
Somebody
correct.
cut that piece
no,
out.
hold on.
You gotta-
Arwen's correct. If it works, it works. But then the problem comes when you get Slick saying, so does that mean that we've got a force of gravity? Well, no.
No. Exactly.
Okay.
Isn't it amazing how the world works?
Yes. How it's been hijacked, how things that we do experience like perspective get hijacked and called curvature, how things we experience like relative density get hijacked and called gravity. Yes, it's very interesting, but also very, very annoying. We've all been deceived.
But try and program an emulator, a model-based system with relative density instead of gravity, and you'll be faced with certain problems,
Like what?
like a universal direction, which gravity is very clear at.
You'd still acquire that with relative density, though, wouldn't you, depending on the density of the matter that you were employing?
Yeah, but if you truly put in the relative factor, then that confuses things.
Well,
Try it out.
it would be more complicated than just saying there is down. Yes, I appreciate that it's oversimplified to make models easier to work with, but that
Yeah, but
doesn't negate the relative density part, does it?
No, it doesn't. Relative density is scientifically provable. I agree with that.
Right.
But to then use models, for
It's
this
actually
kind of-
hold on.
It's
I'm just going to get
no,
this in
but
so we can move
try
on.
it out.
Just let me
Why
get this
don't you
in.
try
So
it
we've come
out?
full circle. Any scientific
So-
evidence of the gravity bit?
No.
Excellent. Thank God. Right, so we can move on.
All right, keep it going. Keep it going.
Empirical deduction-based
Hold on,
evidence.
Ebon's keen
Let's
to
talk
get
about
something in.
software programming.
Sorry, go on, Eben. Get your point in.
I'm just saying that for coding, you're gonna need if then, sometimes else, a lot of else's. If you're gonna use the current gravitational formula, if you're gonna use density, it's pretty simple, and then you just point to a database with all the relative densities of the
Right.
objects.
I'd like to see you actually apply that.
Right, just to reiterate what Eben's just said. So I didn't know that. I'm not familiar with computerized models. But if you have a database of the relative densities for each given item and the mediums that you will potentially be building in, probably quite limited, but still there's water and various other things that people build in, so yes, it's still relevant. But if you have that, then you have all of the ingredients needed to completely negate any requirement for gravity, the oversimplified version of the hijacking of relative density.
Right. So good luck applying that.
Yeah, I don't doubt that it would be more complicated and require a more intricate knowledge of more mediums and more items within those mediums. So yeah, I don't disagree with the sentiment, but as Slick's got to the nub of pretty quickly, it doesn't make the force that's asserted to oversimplify that mathematical formula apply in reality. We just have relative density.
Absolutely, and I agree to that. And yeah, that's part of the aberration of it.
Excellent. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, there is no distance to the sun because it is not a thing that is anywhere. It's optical.
Sorry.
Did everybody enjoy Johnny Globehead's part when it came to, I don't know if anybody that was on the panel now was on the panel yesterday in the after show. Was anybody there for that?
Nope.
Not me.
That's okay, so this will be new on all of you. So has anybody come across the time when somebody asks you why the angular size of the sun does not change throughout the day if you're on a flat plane, given that we have perspective?
Yeah, I was there yesterday.
So but for the rest of the panel and the audience, are you familiar with that question? Why doesn't the angular size of the sun change if we're on a flat plane, given that we have perspective?
Correct. Right. And I had my question to Johnny Globehead was, what makes you think the sun is subject to those same laws of perspective?
Right, which is relevant other than when you dissect what the actual claim or question being asked is. So I'm going to paraphrase this. I hope I don't butcher it. Why does the not actual size i.e. angular size, of the sun not decrease in its not actual size as it moves from its not actual position. So angular size is not actual size, and the sun in the heliocentric model, as they claim it to be, is in a not actual position. So they're saying, why does the not actual size of the sun decrease its not actual size as it moves from its not actual position?
Sounds about right.
Now you just messed up the whole equation because you had an even amount of negatives, but now you have 3 negatives. So
No.
it's not.
No, he got it right.
I'll say it again.
It's another way of saying, yeah, it isn't actually a physical thing that is there. It's all virtual. And the only real thing, the only real data we have and that we can gather is the angular position in relation to the observer.
Can you pop yourself on mute when you're not talking, Travis?
Well, what the heck? I'm just sitting here.
I know, it's just causing a bit of crackly feedback, that's all.
The only thing...
Are you sitting in a diner, Travis? A lot of noise.
As I'm sitting back listening, though, when I hear somebody say that there's no distance to the sun, that sounds like a claim that can be verified. I mean, that's where I get out of it.
I don't know, you can't... That's an argument from ignorance fallacy. You can't prove a negative in that regard, can you? You can't prove a non-distance. You can't, you can't prove the existence of a non-distance, so that's an impossible task.
I think what I'm saying is, can someone just declare that, though? Can somebody just come out and declare that there is no distance to the sun? Can you do that?
Probably not. Whip his ass.
Until disproven, if somebody can actually prove the distance to the sun definitively, then then you can smack me with that.
Yeah, but you still, just because nobody knows the distance to the sun, you still can't just declare that there is none.
Why not?
Well, why do it?
I think
because nobody can prove the contrary.
Right, so that's still, you understand what I'm saying? So just because somebody can't...
I do that kind of shit. I like it. I like declaring something because nobody can declare the contrary. I like.
You mean like glow people?
Maybe.
It's just not added the extra...
some areas here and there, but yeah, they base all their things on total presuppositions. I don't do that.
What are you basing your statement on?
On the lack of evidence to the contrary.
So you're saying that there's no evidence of the distance to the sun, so that gives you the position to be able to declare that there is no distance at all.
Yeah, I declare it to be a optical phenomena like a rainbow, which can be definitely deduced to have no literal distance in relation to the observer. And I say
I would have to agree with
that we see is the same kind of thing.
Because that's fair enough, isn't it, Slick? When he can make that.
Well, I mean,
I agree.
It's just that it still sounds like you're making a declaration with no basis.
Nah, he gave you his basis. You can't measure a distance to a rainbow, and Arwin's saying it's comparable. He made it quite clear that it's his declaration also. So at this stage, I've got no issue. You know, you can challenge him on his declaration by all means, and we all do. Believe me. So, you know, that's fine. But he's made it all quite clear in terms of how he's laid it out. This is my declaration. And my declaration, based on the observation of a rainbow, which you cannot measure a distance to, I will declare that there is no measurable distance to the sun. He just leaves out the measurable bit. He could also paraphrase it further and say, nobody has currently measured a distance to the sun. But that's not how Arwin rolls.
Okay, so now I see. So the key word was measurable. See, if he had thrown that in, I would have probably understood it better.
Yeah, but he doesn't deliberately.
There is no distance. See, that means that there is no distance. That's like a slam the fist down. You know, and that kind of sounds weird.
But he can with his
explanation. Maybe Arwin should just say there is no distance to the sun yet.
No,
that works.
No. Stop. You've missed his point. Then, Arwin, can you repeat a bit about rainbows?
Well, I just wanted to say that there is an apparent distance to the sun. There appears to be some kind of virtual distance because of the holographic nature of the apparition. But there is no actual distance, because then if there was an actual distance, then that would have to be confirmed by actual physical measurement.
Yeah, but why? Why would you declare that you can't get that measurement? You talked about it with rainbows. That's a bit right. I want you to repeat.
Because I believe that the sun is an apparition, just like a rainbow. It's a a holographic phenomena, a light-based phenomena, and a rainbow can be proven to have no actual distance. It's only virtual. It appears to the observer like there was a distance, but when you try to approach it or physically measure it, somehow it appears that it has no real distance because it's only virtually present.
Thank you.
But I heard you say, I heard you say that I believe.
Well, yeah, I know. Before you pounce on him, yes, I can totally understand that at this stage you can completely demolish or whatever you like with his assertion, and that's perfectly acceptable. But what I will say at this point is, as I'm getting criticism for this at the moment, while I'm backing Arwin's argument, as in giving him the freedom to express that declaration, it doesn't mean I agree with him. Right, and I have challenged him on this. I'm just giving him the facility to argue his point cohesively with everyone understanding what he means. So I get Arwin's point about rainbows and how you couldn't possibly measure a distance. Therefore, if you equivocate and say the sun is the same, then you can make that assertion, and it's easy to demolish. Just because I've allowed him the space to make that assertion doesn't mean I agree with him. Just want to make that clear to any audience member who says, because it's been said on Flat Earth Debate, Nathan Oakley says, no, I don't. I'm just allowing the freedom for that particular opinion, in this case, there is no distance to the sun, to be expressed. That's it. Anyway, I just wanted to get that in before Slick rips you a new one, Arwin.
All right, I'll
notify
the lawyer to update the contract.
No pay rises.
The observed phenomenon of a rainbow, does it have motion?
Sorry, say again?
Your observed phenomenon of a rainbow, does it have...
Paul, can you pop yourself on mute?
Okay,
sorry. Your observed phenomena of a rainbow, does it have motion?
Not as long as you are stationary, no.
Now, the observed phenomena of the sun, does that have motion?
15 degrees per hour.
Only over prolonged periods. And if you manage to observe a rainbow that, because of circumstances, is possible to stay there virtually, visibly, then yes, you might also notice that it also moves just like the sun moves, because it's very likely the rainbow is caused indirectly by the sun's light.
Absolutely correct.
So the rainbow will over time move just as the sun moves.
Yeah, same speed. That's right.
Have you...
Can I just answer Nathan's question about, are we familiar with the size of the sun in the sky with the sun moving during the day? I touched on that topic in 10 pages, and I explained the observed phenomena of the sun and how the optical phenomena is produced by a solid body, and it's shown with lasers, flashlights in different scenarios. So it confirms at 100% it's simulating it. So it's really easy to do it, but it's just the atmoplane. It's really an optical phenomena that we see, but it is caused by a solid thing, because there is no such thing as a magnetic field without a magnet. It's impossible to exist in our world. So you need to have a solid thing that can throw a magnetic field out of itself.
Oh, what if that thing is the Earth?
No, Earth doesn't glow.
Let me... I wanted to continue on. So now the difference between a rainbow and a sun. The rainbow, is it dependent on any variables in order for it to appear?
Yes.
And what are those variables?
Rain, or some huge amounts of moisture in the air.
Yes, solid. They have to be solid enough in order to refract the light.
Anything else? It needs light?
Yeah, sunlight.
Sunlight. So you're saying that the rainbow moves same speed as the sun, but how can you measure that without the sun? How do you know it's just not a reflection of the sun's movement?
It is a reflection of the sun's movement. That's why the rainbow, if you get a stationary rain cloud that will sit there and just rain straight down for hours, the rainbow will move with the speed of the sun, 15 degrees per hour. So
is it a reflection of the sun's movement, or is it its own movement?
Of the part of the sun's field by raindrops, so it collapses it to different colors from the spectrum.
Okay, I think Eben's got to the point of this pretty quick too. So it's an equivocation.
It's broken sunlight.
You can replicate rainbows and you can give all of the explanations, but you still require the light source, so you're equivocating. Now, while I don't necessarily disagree with Arwin, it's still equivocating. So I don't know if this needs to continue or if we can move on to gas pressure without a container.
Oh, lovely.
There is no space.
So any evidence that you can have gas pressure, like we all breathe and experience on a day-to-day basis, without the necessary antecedent of a container to cause that pressure.
Never observed that. Come on, I've never observed anything like
Conspiracy Cats 2019.
I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel.
There is no pressure.
Yes, to quote Conspiracy Cats, without the container there can
nobody
be no
cares
pressure.
about their pressure
Correct.
gradient until they can explain why we have the gas pressure in the first place. So if Johnny Globehead is listening, he can take that to the bank.
Just repeat that again. You weren't quite loud enough, Chocolate.
I said, and nobody cares about the gas pressure gradient until it's explained how we have the gas pressure in the first place. So if Johnny Globehead is listening, he can take that to the bank or wherever he wants to go. Thanks.
Exactly. So if you are to describe a gas pressure gradient, then you must first have gas pressure in order to have a gas pressure gradient. So you'd still require the antecedent of a container in order to have a gas pressure gradient. Without the container, there can be no pressure or pressure gradient. So yeah, the whole point of this question is because it is asserted by people who believe they live on a spinning sphere that that spinning sphere is flying through a vacuum of space, known as outer space. From our vantage point, the vacuum of the sky. And if the sky was a vacuum, we wouldn't have any gas to breathe. The gas would fill the space. And we'd be left at an equal torr value to what they currently claim outer space is, something like 10 to the minus 17 torr, as all the gas dissipated to its equilibrium. It would follow the second law of thermodynamics and dissipate, because it has nothing to press upon, according to the religion of heliocentrism. There is no barrier, just a vacuum of the sky. And if there was, which there is not, a vacuum of the sky, the gas would dissipate into the vacuum. Now, the fact that we have gas pressure means it's pressing on something, and you can't press on a vacuum. So space is fake.
Yep. Sorry, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yep. Sorry, priests of heliocentrism. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Now that's my favorite part. Physically impossible. Even if it's real, it's still impossible. It will stop spinning. Absolute sci-fi bullshit crap. I'm sorry about the words.
Scientists said it was so.
Yeah, we have to believe those scientists. They said so.
I wonder who was the first scientist to say so.
It must be real. They
Does
said.
anybody... Sorry to disrupt your flow.
Inga Lehman in 1936.
You want to fill us in?
She was the first.
First what?
To discover that there's a solid core, inner core. She's a Danish seismologist.
Oh wow, she's the root of that presupposition. What's her name?
Mm-hmm. Inga Lehman, INGE space LEHMANN.
And you can discover more exciting details just like that one on the Ebon Kim YouTube channel. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so no evidence, just a presupposition made by some chick way back when.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
So the molten iron core is relatively recent compared to the other.
That's so impossible. If it's spinning, why didn't scientists told us which way it is spinning so I can take them apart and demolish them forever?
What, the molten iron core?
Yeah, what's the direction of the spin?
They've only dug down 8 miles, so they're not going to know that. They haven't got the slightest idea what's beneath our feet. They being pseudoscientists.
I'm just waiting to hear clockwise or anti-clockwise, and then I just cut their throats open with it.
Ah, that's a trick question, because it's all a matter of relative position.
I can just destroy them with this.
Just like that's the same question as with the stars that Johnny Globe had brought up.
No, it's because if their presupposed Coriolis effect is it's been real on the surface of Earth, then it should affect the core, and then they're in big shitty troubles because it will make it stop spinning.
Yeah, there's definitely no evidence for the molten iron core. Nonetheless, it's still taught to school children as absolute fact. Is everyone familiar with the story currently in the heliocentric model for how we have this oversized molten iron core? Oversized because time-wise in their model it should have cooled down by now, but hasn't because it's very big. Does everybody know why?
Because the planet in the beginning was a flying hot potato which was spinning, and then the surface cooled down and compressed down and that kept the temperature and the flow of molten iron going.
Yeah, but given that timeline with the heavy bombardment that they talked about, again, complete just so story, that core that you just described by accretion, gravitational, would be cool by now, given the timeline. Yep. Well, why isn't it?
Well, no, okay, listen. This is where, like, I've thought about this too. Is like, where's step A, step B, step C? So if we imagine all of the space dust floating around and gravity beginning to pull things in, it would have to have been molten from the beginning, because at what point did it interact with something to make it molten? Right? Because you've got a grain of, almost think of a pearl, right? You've got an oyster with a grain of sand that then gets layers and layers and layers and layers built on it. So the Earth didn't just appear the way it was, boom, with all of its layers. It was developed. It evolved. So that's the whole thing. You have to see this Earth come together like a magic thing of force bringing, or gravity bringing all of the elements and dust particles. They would have all still been dry and not molten. It would have just been a large dust bunny. It wouldn't have had all of the different constituent parts to it, because you might as well tell that story along with your molten iron core, because why stop there? But we don't ever go to that development.
But it gets better. You know, the story doesn't stop there. Obviously, what you've just described is just a just-so story and pulled apart as easily as it's put together. But ultimately speaking, the just-so story gets into the crescendo of the farce when it comes to the molten iron core. So I've been poised to tell this story, so I'm just going to tell it. So you've got a planet called Earth, and you've got a planet called Theia that's dangerously close in its presupposed orbit around the sun, which doesn't happen. Anyway, it's getting closer and closer in the heliocentric world of bullshit, and eventually, disaster! It strikes Earth, that being Theia, at a glancing blow, and smashes off the surface level, but not enough to destroy the whole planet, only takes out a chunk, and deposits its molten iron core into Earth, the debris being coalesced in the form of the moon, and leaving Earth with an oversized molten iron core, previously the planet Theia, which is now part of Earth. That's their just-so story for the timeline not quite working. So there you go.
I've got a question. So
I haven't watched this sci-fi movie.
The Earth's inner core is 3,958 miles. That's what they state. Now, how does magma travel from the Earth's inner core all the way up to spew out of a volcano as lava?
It doesn't. That's not part of their
gravity.
narrative. That's not what causes lava. That's not what happens. So you've got the ring of fire on tectonic plates. The friction between the tectonic plates is what causes the lava. So it's not necessarily coming from the core. That's just a misconception in their model. So it's from the heat generated at the tectonic boundaries that would cause the lava, and then that would spew up on the ring of fire as they've got it modelled out. Now, the validity of any of that, I have no idea. I don't know if we've even got tectonic plates.
No, we don't.
Right. Well, I don't know that's just the case either, but I'm just saying that's the narrative. That it's not from the you don't get lava from the molten iron core. It's not working its way up from the
we
center.
had the ring of fire. That's why they came up with the tectonic plates. They use this as their point of.
No, I appreciate that, the one, but I'm just saying that's their narrative, right? That's what they say is the case. Now, I'm not claiming that's where lava comes from either. Before anybody starts, I'm just saying that's their narrative. Anyway, we've got one last housekeeping question. This has been great, by the way. Before the show started, so if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, you'll appreciate this because you've heard it on the pre-show when this goes out on Friday. But if you're watching this live, you've got no idea. Before the show, I was saying, look, let's have a bit of enthusiasm for the housekeeping, because it might be the case that people watching don't necessarily see the significance of the questions being asked. I.e.,
space is fake.
Exactly, space is fake. Any evidence of a gas pressure without a container? If the answer's just no, normally I'll expand and go, all right, so there's no proof of the vacuum of the sky or something to that effect. But I was just hoping for the panel to do it. Now we're on, 35 minutes into the show, and we're on the last question, which is pretty epic, so great. Any evidence of Earth radius, the R value?
Yes, there is an R value, and this is the retardedness of globe heads.
That's normally Arwin's answer. Yes, there's evidence that there is a presupposed R value. I mean, is there any evidence that Earth has a radius, currently presupposed to be a spherical radius, when they've only dug down 12 kilometers?
Just Arwin may say the prayer now.
Me?
You normally say, Arwin, yes, there's evidence.
Radius Sanctus.
Gravitas Spiritus Sanctus. You normally say that there's a evidence of the presupposition of R. In other words, yes, the R value exists, obviously, or we wouldn't be asking for evidence of Earth radius, spherical, that it's claimed to be.
Anyone could find the value of R. I mean, Eratosthenes did it 2,000 years ago without leaving Alexandria, so anyone can do it wherever they're sitting right now.
I'll just take it back to the first question. There's no curvature, there's no radius.
All they have to do is declare it. They just declare the radius, and then all of the believers say, yes, there is radius. And then as time goes on, everybody declares radius. That's how I
hold
see
on.
it.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. They still deduce it from the from the celestial angle changes in relation to the position on the Earth, Still do that trick to conclude there is a radius.
Yeah, but we just don't add in the spherical bit. So you stand and look at the light above your head on the equator, right? And then you figure out where the equator is based on the midpoint of where the sun traverses. But we're just talking about the sun above your head. At some stage, somebody has to say, no. When it goes around this part of the ground beneath my feet, it's actually that I'm standing sideways on the outside edge of a ball, and that ball is spinning, and the light is going around that outside edge because it's actually a sphere I'm standing on. Because, you can track the sun and get a circle, right? But do you get a spherical radius? Well, no, only if you presuppose it's a ball. That's the point. The presupposition came from Aristarchus. Oh, it's Earth as a sphere causing that shadow. From there on in, that presupposition is utilised in all of the measurements of the sun. not measuring around, putting tape measures around ball Earths now, are we? Just looking at the sun.
And if you do Google search, and most people will do Google search, and the top 3 results is going to be the Wikipedia. The Wikipedia says right there with Eratosthenes that he made 5 important assumptions, and number 4, it's that the Earth is a perfect sphere. It says right there.
Yeah, he's presupposing
R. What's wrong though? It's pear-shaped.
Yeah,
it's so perfect that it got polished on the outside to be perfect.
Yeah, their own declarations are usually parroted by the pretender clowns that think they know what they're talking about when they use this as an evidence. they'll actually drop that in there if they're reasonably well researched. So the most recent victim of this was Gary Awesome, and he basically stuck in that he had to presuppose the Earth was a sphere. It's like, well, by that declaration, you are admitting, quite openly so, that this is a begging the question fallacy. If you're going to assert that this is a proof of the sphere, and he starts with the presupposition that it's on a sphere, then that's nothing but a demonstration of a logical fallacy, begging the question. Assuming one's outcome, assuming automatically that it is a sphere that you are measuring, that's begging the question. You're not demonstrating a sphere, you're presupposing it. And it's never been any different. That's why yesterday with Arwin and Johnny Globehead, it didn't matter what the argument was. You know, Arwin could have just completely ignored every point of the question, and then just said, "Well, where'd you get R from?" And then immediately the argument's demolished. And I had to coax Johnny Globehead into still having a cogent argument, because just by asking for the R value, Arwin basically obliterated the argument. And that's the case in most instances. At some stage, they must beg the question. They have to assume their outcome. So just asking for R, it's not the best argument for debunking heliocentricity. That would be gas pressure without a container. But when you're into people who have got this deep-seated belief in the sphere Earth, and they go to their mathematics and models to prove it, you just ask for R. Where's your R value? Oh, well, we just assume that bit. What, the thing you're trying to prove? Well, that's the end of that argument then.
Yep.
Nathan, I'm really sorry. Can I just say something? Because I may have to go in 10 minutes, and I just want to take 1 minute more to ask you guys something.
Mike's all yours. Go ahead, the one.
Do you remember, like, when we started the Flat Earth revolution, like 4 or 5 years ago? There was this video on YouTube, guy telling that the sun is blah 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 high, like 3,000 miles, like using a sextant that they've measured it, and they say that it's about 50 some kilometers in diameter. Do you all guys recall that?
Yeah, I know the claim. Carry on.
Yeah. Well, so because the other time I claimed the distance to the sun that I've measured in a totally different way, and it's like 96% close to what we were told back then. And 2 days ago, I actually used a totally different method to measure the sun diameter, and it actually goes like 98, 99% accurate to what we were told before. And that really struck me. Like, it's using two totally different methods and approaching the subject to actually take this measurement, and it like matches. I didn't expect that, to be honest.
But you don't have the distance, or you know, to be able to make your measurement pan out. You've got to make some assumptions along the way. I mean, I'll reserve judgment. Maybe you'll prove me wrong, but
there are actually no assumptions. I just used a circle with a circumference of 105,000 kilometers, and then I've calculated geometrically where it should be. According to the division of the dielectric planes, there is a certain space that's allowed for a new part of a new dielectric plane to be there. So it doesn't have the option to be anywhere else. And then the other thing is that measuring the sun, like with triangulation, although we see, for example, if we want to triangulate it and there's 3 people seeing 3 different suns, it's still possible to triangulate the sun by having this rectangle that appears. There is a method in mathematics in geometry that does that.
But that will only give you an apparent size, an angular size.
No, it will give you the accurate number.
Okay.
Then you have to work on the geometry of the triangle that you got from the triangulating the 3 different suns that you get. So they form a triangle, and then you work inside this shape when you know the distances. But getting the distances of this triangle is really difficult.
Hold on. If you're gonna triangulate, then you either need to know its exact size or its exact distance.
Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. If you're going to triangulate it, you must first know how big it is, and you don't know that. If you start with assumptions of how big it is and then triangulate, well, then you've started with an assumption of how big it is.
Yeah, that's why I used different methods to find out how big it is in diameter, and it shows 53 to 53.5 kilometers, which I installed in the beginning.
But you're getting that from your triangulation, and
no, totally different method.
Okay,
It has to do
I'll
with
just say hello
fields
to
and
our new guest. Bear with me a
ratios.
second. Hello, Bill. How you doing?
Hello.
Say hello again.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Good to have you, Bill. Very pleased to have you. Okay, well, I mean, so far, I think Arwin hit the nail on the head, took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's kind of dubious if you're gonna claim an exact position again, and
No, there is no exact position because it's moving up and down all the time. You'll never be able to measure where it exactly is. It's impossible. You just have the limits of where it goes, like up and down, like probably 100 to 200 kilometers of its motion, but nothing more.
Yeah, but the only real thing you really have to go on is the angular data.
Yeah, this is due to the atmoplane. It's part of the optical phenomena is the sun not changing size.
Right.
I've described this in like 5 pages, very detailed, so we won't have any questions after you read it.
Okay, so you assume it is.
No, I don't.
Give me a second.
What we see there,
guys. I just wanted to just do a live stream update thing. The live stream, the chat is frozen on your screen, Nathan, and for me, it's showing. Sorry, short films collection.
It's all right. I caught it just at the same time you did, so I've just changed it out. Right. It's because I've swapped channels between the streams and just forgot to swap the chat over, so it's now changed.
Just to tell something to Arwin. Arwin, I tried to measure the diameter of the sun using like 10 different types of magnets and getting the ratios of how big it is, the magnet, independence of what the magnet is made of and what's the shape. And then I, based on this ratio, which occurred to be the same with 10 different magnets with different shapes, you can always see the same ratio or the same amount of field depending on the diameter of the magnet. And then I use this to actually, because we know how wide it is, the daylight of the sun. And after this, knowing this dimension, you can work out the size, and it shows 53.5 kilometers in diameter.
Sorry, I could barely follow what you were saying back then, but am I correct that you're deducing the actual size of the sun based on interpreting magnetic field interactions?
Well, sun is magnet, and it has
that's not actual proof. But
no, sun is a magnet, a huge magnet, and what it does is just moves its magnetic field around and polarizes the atmoplane.
Yeah, but if it's literally a magnet, then there should be a magnetic ring, a distance, an actual measurable magnetic field coming off it that would reduce over distance like real physical magnets do.
Well,
so do you have any proof of any magnetic field?
That's what I started with, was that I've measured 10 different magnets made out of different stuff, and they have different sizes and different diameters, and there is a constant ratio in all of them of how big they are and how big their field is. It never changes. It doesn't matter how big or small the magnet is or what it's made of. It's always an exact proportion according to the size and the diameter. So it's like
where is that magnetic residue field then that is emanating from the sun? Where is it? Where can we measure it?
It's the light. That's the field. Measuring the light where it starts.
That light is not magnetism.
No.
It's another form of energy, isn't it?
Yeah. Light is made by the sun polarizing the atoms in the atmoplane. They start producing plasma and they glow.
Sure, but whatever light is, it's not a magnetic field.
No, it's called a magnetic field. The light is a property of the atoms in the atmosphere. It has nothing to do with the sun.
Right, so then you have no direct proof of a magnetic field that you've measured.
Then what does polarizes the atmosphere then?
Else? Does it really matter? If there's a magnetic field emanating from the sun, then we should be able to measure it somehow. And you're not laying down a claim that you've actually measured.
How do you measure a magnetic field, Arwin?
Well, detect it. It's physically measurable using other devices to just Notice there's magnetic activity.
Name a device.
Can anybody here assist me in this? Device to measure magnetic fields?
I can't because this whole conversation makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but maybe somebody else can do it.
That's nice. Anybody that can make sense of it can assist, maybe?
No, I'm asking because I don't know for such things, but if there is, I need to know.
Right.
And it would be great to have this information.
There's magnetometers, but
measuring device.
Magnetometers. Was that even?
Electromagnetic radiation tester,
But-
electric field, magnetic
but
field.
how do you measure something like the
Magnet-
like that over?
Meter, it's called.
Arwen, I measured it with tiny metal flakes, and I had a ruler on the background. So I placed the flakes stationary, and then I just use my hand to push the magnet, like in parts of the millimeter. And when they get activated and they go and stick to the magnet, then I know where the end of the field is. Like,
Right, that's a more primitive way to figure out where a magnetic field becomes strong enough to pull something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, there are magnetometers. It's a specific device that can pick up a level of magnetic field strength in the vicinity.
Mhm.
So you can use that to detect
Oh, great.
what is actually the direct influence emanating from the sun by comparing distances to the
Yeah.
assumed literal position of the sun, and then measuring a magnetic field emanating from it. So I'd love to see some field research regarding that before you claim that the sun is a magnetic object.
Yeah, I'll do something in that manner as well.
All right.
There is a demonstration with magnets exactly how it works with the atmosphere. I have it on tape, and there's a big magnet that represents the sun and small magnets that represents the atoms in the air.
Okay,
And how
I
they move and how
I
they
appreciate the sentiment to that, but that kind of does sound to me like a Cavendish experiment deduction-based thing and not the actual sun out there. That's just all I'm saying about it.
It's a principle of how fields interact with each other. It's not deducting anything. It's just showing the movement.
Yeah,
And-
but you presuppose that the sun is that. That's the idea.
Well, if you're in a world that only uses polarized electricity to create everything, there is nothing else for the sun to be.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, what about before electricity was used?
There is only electricity. That's what's called ether, electricity.
No,
But-
I mean as for civilization, when
Hmm?
as for civilizations that didn't utilize electricity as energy.
Can you elaborate to that a bit more? I don't understand. Sorry.
Well, back before light bulbs, did we
Mhm.
use electricity as energy in any form? I mean, we use torches, we use candles to light up the night. So,
Yeah, that's fire is slow electricity. It's a slow charge of electricity. It's just electricity running slowly. That's for like first graders to be able to understand what plasma and electricity. They're basically the same thing. Absolutely, 100%. So plasma is actually the first state of matter. After it polarizes, it's not plasma anymore. It becomes solid liquids and gases.
Where are you getting this from?
I discovered it after 10 years of studying everything in existence.
So after you studied, now you're making this declaration.
Yeah, that's why I made a paper about it and I made experiments about it.
No further questions.
Thanks.
I'd like to ask a question of you guys, if I could.
That Bill, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate this whole thing that you guys do. I mean, putting yourself out there, and I don't think, myself included, a lot of people would do that. So I gotta give you guys the props for that. In my research on YouTube, there's a theory out there that the moon is possibly a reflection of the Earth? Has anyone looked into that? I know you guys have had almost 800 shows, so I don't know if you've gone into that at all.
What would be the point?
Well, I mean, he was just saying that Earth is just a crater, and it kind of makes the case for the flat Earth being us in a crater.
How?
And the Earth is a lot, like 1,000 times bigger than you think.
Well, with what you watched, what was the best evidence presented to make you think that?
Well, that's a good question. You have to kind of suspend some stuff, but he basically found the constellations on the moon. So he looked for Orion, and he found those, and then it was just interesting. I'm not saying he's not saying he's right, totally right, obviously, but he basically says Saturn is a crater within a crater, creating the rings, and then that the sun is reflecting the Earth onto a plasma ball around the Earth.
Bill, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt just for
Hold on, no. Before you do the one, hold on. Let me just ask him a quick question. You said that you have to suspend some stuff. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, open your mind is basically what I meant.
So when you say suspend some stuff, you mean open your mind for some declarations and beliefs?
I don't, not necessarily. Just kind of sit on the sidelines and see what he's saying. It's not necessarily. I don't think everything you see you have to believe. So he's just presenting.
If you want to hear the continuation of this, then you will have to stay tuned on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, because unfortunately for those of you watching in the not 1980, the Nathan Oakley audience, then this is where we bid you farewell. A massive thank you for tuning into this live debate. Hopefully sharing as well, but yes, also a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you'd like to keep yourself occupied after the live stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. As I say, if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!